Hey, this is David with No Chaser, and for today's topic, I'm going to talk about the difficult but very important task of being able to tell somebody when things aren't going well. Now, as somebody in recovery or, talking to people that have seen the destruction that addiction and drinking may have brought to your life, the memories can still be fresh, and it can be scary or nerve-wracking, or just like a non-starter to say that like things aren't going well for you. Because at least for me, I was always worried about, I don't want them to then be super worried about me and then questioning and then like hyper vigilant of like what I'm doing. And so like if I just have one day where I'm a little bit tired, or no, is he depressed? Is he going to go drink now? Is he going to go back to jail and blah, blah, blah. You're just afraid of the whirlwind that will go on in the minds of other people that are around you. It's kind of like, it reminds me of, that thing where you go to a therapist's office or something, and, they ask, have you had suicidal thoughts? And you're kind of just like, well, that depends on what happens if I say yes. What happens? If I say yes, an hour later, am I going to have a bracelet on and grippy socks? But, in all seriousness, it can be difficult because, like, there was a couple of reasons of why I wouldn't want to tell people things weren't going well. One is pride. That's usually kind of like the first thing that comes to mind. Pride or ego. Two, a fear is that I was afraid people weren't going to be able to help me because I was so special in my problems. But three, and this was probably at least the most sincere of the worries, was that I didn't want people to be afraid of what was going to happen. I didn't want to tell people, like, I thought about, like, drinking this morning, and then they'd just be like, oh, no, we need to, like, talk about this now. We need to get fixed. Do you need to do this? Do you need to do that? I mean, honestly, I have to say that may seem bothersome, but that is a blessing in of itself, because that means you have someone in your life that cares. But it can be kind of a tightrope walk. Like through trial and error many times, I've tried to learn ways to like tell somebody that, I'm struggling, but with like some sort of tact and some sort of reassurance. And the one way I found that like makes it the best, I can ease somebody that like to be able to actually explain what's going on in your mind, how you're feeling, how things are, but without, sending them into sort of a tizzy of just worry and trepidation, is that one thing I found that has been helpful, and I know other people have done, this is where I learned it from, is that if you tell somebody, hey, there's something going on, I've been depressed, I started to not only have thoughts, but then fantasies of drinking, or I just had a really strong craving earlier, and they've kind of kept happening, just kind of like what I talked about in my last episode, like those 3 hard days, one, the obvious thing is that you'd want to tell, like, people in recovery with you. But, if you feel like you need to tell somebody, like your spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend, somebody like close to your friend that's not in recovery, just because they're in your life so much, or if they notice it and they start asking you how things are going, you don't want to lie, and start all that again. I mean, you got into recovery not to lie, but how do you explain yourself without making things brittle again? Walking, having them walk on eggshells, things like that. And the way I learned was that if you tell them, which is good, it's good practice anyways, but if you tell them, I've been going through this and this is what I'm going to do about it. Just to let you know, I'm feeling this way, but this is what I'm going to do about this problem I'm going through. Like I said, I was like having a craving, and they kind of keep coming up. I had a craving earlier today, but I called somebody. In recovery, you may not understand the whole deal, but I took action for it. Or, I've been really depressed, and I haven't quite had the thoughts of drinking yet, but they may come up, and you could tell that I've been struggling. So, like, I've looked into possibly seeing a therapist, see if it works with my schedule, or some sort of medication management, adjusting the meds I have, or looking towards those, or just finding some sort of outlet. It's always good to and by the way, not to do this like flippantly, or not to do this with, dishonestly, like you're just trying to like quell their nerves and you don't actually plan on doing it. I mean, that's what I said, like it actually works well in tandem, because you should have a plan if like things aren't going well. There's always that age-old question of like, the life is going to be difficult and you're just gonna have to ride through some storms. You can't always just expect, like, if I do something proactive and be good, then the bad feelings will go away. No, those will be there. But, when it's affecting you so much that other people can see it, it's important to be able to talk about it. And one of the biggest things is kind of that preemptive strike of where if you don't make the person, the loved ones in your life, if you don't make them come to you first or ask you about it first, really taking that step and be like, hey, you may have noticed I've been feeling this way. This is what's been going on. that also helps a lot towards like building trust. Like, it's really important to get into habits like these of just like communication, because that's one of the biggest things is just having a constant dialogue about how you are with someone else, not in your own brain, not just like the pong bouncing back and forth of your own thoughts, which always spiral into something crazy, but actually talking to someone else. Having that open dialogue is just, like mentally and emotionally healthy, as long as it's with someone, that's helpful to you or cares about you or is not toxic or judgmental or anything like that. But it's also, it will make it easier in the future if you really, like if things are getting dire and you need to reach out. And so when I think about that, when I think about, the last kind of like phase I went through, I had talked to some people about it. Maybe not in the most serious of terms I need to, but I did like discuss it on length, not just on here, but with people in meetings afterwards. I realized it felt good to talk about it, but it may have been more difficult to do it, not retroactively, but I learned from that. And I know if I would have brought it up, even the people in recovery or just like, the people around me, if I brought it up, they may be worried, but I could dissuade that by saying, you know what, I'm doing this. This is what I'm doing. And sometimes it's good just to tell people you're going to do something because it can keep you accountable. Because if someone be like, hey, what's up? Are you doing that thing? Or are you busy? Or how's this thing going? How's therapy going? How's, your diet or working out going? How's like the recovery group or the meeting you were going to try? How's that going? You have no answer. You don't want to be in that situation. Certainly don't want to start lying again. So it can keep you accountable. So that is one of my biggest things, just kind of a short nugget of like something I learned that could be a good way to find a way to be able to tell people like what's going on when things aren't well, is to have something in your mind to say, this is what's occurring. Things aren't great. There's a lot of turmoil in here. And because of that, I'm going to start doing this. And the biggest thing is to, whatever this is, to have something you're going to do. Anyways, I hope you guys find that helpful. I wish you all I wish you all well. I wish you all well. If you're still struggling, you have no plans of trying to do recovery, I just hope your suffering will ease. I hope that if you're in recovery, you can stay strong. I hope if your family, friends, or loved ones of people who are in recovery, who are struggling, that they're able to find their way and you're able to enjoy your life too. Anyway, just be well.